Hello and welcome back to another review video. Today we're doing target 6C for your 6C retake. So it says determine necessary conditions to demonstrate two triangles are congruent. So that's what we're doing here. So number one, we have given the pre-image KLM, triangle KLM, so that's the one right here, KLM, right? Remember, triangles have a first name, a middle name, and a last name. So it's translated onto the coordinate plane, and so you have to complete the triangle congruent statement. So triangle congruent statement is saying like this certain triangle is congruent to this certain triangle. So the only thing is it matters what order you put it in, right? It matters what order you put the first name, middle name, and last name in, right? If someone said your name with like your last name and your middle name and your first name and your last name, if everything was all switched around, it wouldn't be right. So there's a specific way to write a triangle's name if you're trying to make it congruent to another one. So it gives you the triangle's name right here. So BCA. So the first thing we're going to do is, looking at our picture, we're going to match up our sides. Okay, so we've got our two triangles. So we've got that B matches up to K, that A matches up to M, and that C matches up to L, right? So we need to kind of match up which vertices, right? Vertices are like the corners, which vertices match up with which. So now that we know which ones match up, so we need to write that these two triangles are congruent, so we have to write the name of the second one in the right order. So we use the triangle symbol because we're talking about a triangle. Wow, that is ratchet. There we go. And so they put B first, and so we put K first because B and K match up. They put C next. That matches up with L on the second one because C and L match up. And then they put A as the last name. So we put M as the last name because it matches up with A. All right, so you match it up, and then when you're writing it, right, B matches up with K, C matches up with L, and then A matches up with M, just like we had it in our picture. All right, second one, determine the value of X that would maintain congruence of the triangles. So we're trying to figure out what number X is in order for these two triangles to be the same. Well, here, right, the fact that we have this and this tells us that we have an isosceles triangle. So an isosceles triangle is telling you that two sides are the same and one side is different. So if these two sides are the same, that goes along with the angles that are next to them. So if this angle is 50, then this angle has to also be 50, okay? Right, because we have an isosceles triangle. So if the two side lengths are the same, their angles are also going to be the same. So now we have to figure out this other angle, what it is. Well, triangles add up to, so triangles add to, right, 180 degrees, right? So in order to figure out this missing angle right here, we're going to take the whole 180 degrees that we know the whole triangle is and take off the two angles that we do know to find our missing one. So 180 minus 50 minus 50, right? If you type it into your calculator, you get 80 degrees. So that means this angle up at the top is 80 degrees. So if our two triangles are congruent, okay, that means this angle is the same as this angle. So that means this angle over here is 80 degrees. So that helps us figure out what X is, right? Kind of similar to our last target. So we set up our equation. So 2x plus 6, let's make that look more like a 2, equals 80 degrees. So they're equal because that whole angle is 80 degrees. We just have to figure out what number X is so that it actually makes 80 degrees. So we set up our equation. We're solving for x, so we need to undo the plus 6. Okay, so we bring our 2x down, so we get 2x equals, and then 80 minus 6 is 74. Okay, and then we divide both sides by 2. So we get x equals, and then this will get us 37. So that's how we figure out the value of x. Then our last one for this one, it says, given that side AC and DF are corresponding sides of a figure, find the lengths of the given sides that would maintain congruence of the figures when AC is 9A plus 10 and DF is 3A plus 70. So corresponding sides of a figure, so that would mean, like, let's say we had two different squares and they're congruent to each other. So we've got AC is this side over here, and DF, you know, I'm going to put them at the bottom because that's actually going to be easier. So we've got AC and DF, so corresponding sides, they're the same length because they're in the same position on our two figures that are congruent to each other. So corresponding sides of a figure. So find the lengths of the given sides that would maintain the congruence of the figures. So congruent, so our two figures have to be congruent. So AC, they say, is 9A plus 10. We're given that it's 9A plus 10. And then we're given that DF is 3A plus 70. Okay, so that's what we're given. So we have to figure out, it says, find the lengths of the given side. So we're trying to figure out how long is this side and this side. Because they're the same on both squares or rectangles on the two figures, they should be the same length. So in order to figure out how long they are, the first thing we have to do is figure out what A is. Well, if the sides are the same length on both figures, then what we can do is set up an equation where they're equal to each other. So we can say, because they're the same on both figures, 9A plus 10 equals 3A plus 70. They're congruent, so they're the same. And so now we're going to go through and solve this equation. So whenever we've got a variable on both sides, there's many different ways we can solve it. I'm going to handle the variables first because you can't solve it if there's one on both sides. So we have to get rid of the variables on one of the sides. So between 3A and 9A, 3A is smaller. So I'm going to get rid of the 3A from this side, okay? So when I do that, 9A minus 3A, that gets us 6A. The 10 is still there because we didn't do anything with it. We got rid of that 3A, so we have 70 left on this side, okay? So now we go from here. So we're still solving for A, so I need to get rid of the 10 on the sides of here. So we bring down the 6A, and then 70 minus 10 is 60. All right, and then our last step is to divide both sides by 6. Then we bring down this line, so we still have it, to get rid of that. So 60 divided by 6 is 10. So just figuring out what A is not figuring out the problem. We have to figure out how long each side is. Well, now that we know that A is 10, we can figure out, right, we found out that A equals 10, so we're going to use that. We're going to plug in the 10 for A on this one, and we're going to plug in the 10 for A on this one too. So, right, when they're next to each other, that's multiplication. So we're doing 9 times what A is. We're doing 3 times what A is, right? So we figured out that A is 10, right? So this over here, right, it's multiplication. So 9 times 10 is 90. And then we add 10. So 90 plus 10, that is 100. And then we're doing multiplication, so 3 times 10 is 30. 30 plus 70 is 100. So we know that AC is 100 and that DF is also 100, right? We know we did it right because they're the same, right? And they should be the same because they're the same side on both of our figures. Hope you enjoyed. Go do your retake.